Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Violet.
And I'm Ruby.
When I was 11, 12, or 13, I played HeroQuest for the first time. I was really excited about it. The cover looked fantastic. Here there was a guy surrounded by all kinds of vicious monsters fighting him. It looked very fun, and I had a blast playing it. I then hunted down a copy of it when I was in college, and recently I've gotten a copy for the Dice Tower library. Even more recently, Hasbro made a new version of it, which took a while to get to me, but I eventually got it, and then I was like, hey, I first played this game when I was your age, so I want to see what you would think of it. The problem is, this was the first dungeon crawler that I had ever played. It is not the first dungeon crawler they played. You guys have played all kinds of complicated games. So this is not nearly as complicated as some others. If you've never seen this game before or ever heard of it, let me show you a bit about how it plays, and we'll be right back. This is a one versus all game where one person is playing Zargon. That person's going to get the quest book, and the quest book will have a story and will give you the different maps and what goes on. Everybody else is going to take one of the characters. Now, since I got the deluxe version of the game, the mythic one or whatever, there is both genders of, for example, here a wizard or an elf, but they're pretty much the same. Whatever character you pick, it tells you how many attack dice they have, how many defense dice they have, their body points, which is essentially your hit points in this game, and mind points, which is used for some magic spell stuff. It also tells you how fast you move, what weapon you have, and if you start with any armor. But since no one starts with armor, and everyone uses 2 red dice to move, I'm not sure why those are on the cards. Each person's going to take a sheet, put your character's name, the character, and write all that stuff down. And then here, for example, under body points, you might write 8, cross it off and write 7 if you get hit. You keep track of your potions and gold coins down here. Zargon will set the board up, having the staircase where the heroes start, and you can only see what's in your room. So this is the quest 1, for example, and you'll notice that half the map isn't even going to use. That's all solid stone. But it shows the different rooms and things that are available. And Zargon knows this. It will also have information that might happen in the different rooms. On a hero's turn, they're going to roll dice for movement, as I've already pointed out. That's going to be 2 6-sided dice. So you'll roll those. That's how far you can move. You can take an action, then move, or move and then take an action. When you go to a door, basically you automatically open that door. And when you go out into a hallway or into a new room, then Zargon is going to put out the things. So, for example, in this particular quest here, on this, when you walk out into this hall, pretty much the only thing you can see is that there's a door here, and that down here, there's a stone, and that just essentially shows you can't go that way. Everything behind that is solid stone. If you go into a room, let's say a hero goes into this room, again, you're always replacing the closed doors with open ones, but at this point, you're going to put any possible, there might be furniture in the room. The furniture has all different kinds of looks, but it really usually doesn't do anything. You're also going to be putting enemies into the room. And there's all sorts of enemies. There are orcs, there are mummies, there are zombies, there are skeletons, there are goblins, there are abominations, etc. Now all this stuff is not going to show up in one room like I just put it in there. But you can then, like I said, you can take an action. Many times an action is an attack. When a hero attacks a monster, or when a monster attacks a hero, you're rolling a certain amount of dice. You're trying to get skulls, something I apparently can't do at all. Each skull is 1 hit. After you've been hit, whoever is being attacked rolls the dice, and monsters defend on this black shield, which is on 1 side, and the heroes defend on the heroic shield, which is on 2 sides. The hit is on the other 3 sides. Most monsters are 1 hit point, but there are several that take 2 hits to kill and a few that take more than that. And each monster will have their own set of attack and defense dice, as shown by various cards. So for example, here's the stats for an orc, who you can see can move 8, has 3 attack dice, 2 defense dice, 1 body point, 2 mind points. Body point again is your hit points. There's the zombie, gargoyle, the mummy, the skeleton, abomination, the goblin, and the terrible dread warrior. These are all the basic ones, although various things can change the stats of a monster. So a hero has one action on their turn and movement. Sometimes as an action you might decide to search for a trap. There are traps that aren't readily available and will hurt a hero if they walk through those spots. But if you search for them, you reveal that. A hero can also try to disarm a trap, which is pretty difficult but easier to do if you are the dwarf. The dwarf has a much better chance. You can also search for secret doors, and if there is a secret door, then they'll show you where that is, and you can go into that room. It's just like a normal door. You can also search for treasure. Each hero can search each room for treasure once. Sometimes there's a very specific thing. Like it might say, hey, you find a special artifact or whatever, and in fact, there is artifact cards in this game that you can get from finding really good treasure. But if it doesn't say anything specifically, you draw the top treasure card, which might be some coins. This one, for example, gives 50 coins. It might be a potion that you can use in the future, like this potion of defense. But it could also be a hazard, a trap, or a wandering monster. So whenever there's a wandering monster drawn, the Zargon is going to go to the book, look at the very bottom, and it tells you the wandering monster in this quest is an orc, and then they'll bring out an orc. So the heroes are going to be taking these actions, searching for treasure, looking for secret doors, looking for traps, disarming traps, fighting monsters, and eventually getting to do whatever the quest does. Once a quest is over, you can do a little bit of things between quests and get ready for the next one. In between quests, heroes can try to upgrade to give them different items that will perhaps give you maybe a ranged attack like this crossbow, or give you an extra defense dice. And different characters have different ways to, some things will work on some characters, like for example this chainmail may not be worn by the wizard. But that's okay, because there are 4 books of spells that the wizard has access to. 3 of these books go to the wizard, so I might pick the water spells for the wizard, the air spells, and the fire spells. The other book goes to the elf. And each of these can be used once per quest and have all kinds of special effects that can be done. Then you go to the next quest. If everyone dies, you play the same quest again, although the book tells you to modify it. At the end of the quest booklet, there is an entirely blank quest. I guess you can photocopy this, where Zargon can make up his own adventures. It even tells you what is here. In another video, I'm going to go over the comparisons between the old HeroQuest and the new one. But I will say that the new one, the miniatures, seem very fine to me. They're a little spiky, hard plastic, but they look good. And as I said, I did do an upgrade for this, where I bought this game here, the Mythic Contents, which came with the female versions of everything in there, plus a few more heroes, plus more quest books with another room. So there's more stuff involved in here. I do not like these plastic things at all. They're already breaking for me, you can see here. And some of the stuff, like in particular this weapon rack, I'm afraid if I take it out one more time, it's going to break. And we have little rats and skulls. I guess they're there for flavor. All these are really cool looking, though. They were originally cardboard furniture, but now it's unpainted, so there's that. It's okay. The best thing about this game, the best thing about HeroQuest, is the rule book. The new rule book is very nicely done, very easy to understand. The card quality is decent. The miniatures look good. The art is fine, if a bit archaic. Okay, so when we look at this game, it is the most generic of games. You have barbarian, wizard, elf, you're fighting orcs, goblins, skeletons, very simple stuff. But what did you think about that? Like, you guys tend to like dungeon crawls, right? Going through and fighting monsters? Mm-hmm. Did this one feel easier, simpler, more complicated than other ones?
It was pretty simple, honestly.
Much simpler than other, like, battle tactics. Like, you just roll a dice, see how, and then they defend. Fairly simple.
Did you like that? Did you want more complexity, or do you like it simpler?
I mean, it's faster when it's simpler, but I felt that was kind of generic.
Ribby, you couldn't even read your cards. Don't you dare say anything about
Hush! Hush!
So, but playing through it, so this is one of the first times where we played one of these where I was the bad guy. and you were going through, and I was controlling the monsters. Did you like that?
That was pretty fun.
I don't think you were more like the bad guy. More like the person who just set up the rules and made them move, I guess.
Yes. And even though I do like having a dungeon master of sorts, in this one, it's so obvious what they do that you do not need a dungeon master except for the hidden traps and secret doors and stuff. And if I understand correctly, there's an app for this. We haven't tried that out to do that. I like being Zargon, but it's not that interesting, especially when there's no monsters on the board. Zargon does nothing. What did you think about combat?
I thought the combat was like somewhat easy. I mean,
it's simple, clearly. Unless you're using magic cards, then it's a little more complex.
depending on whether if you roll good or not, though.
It was a little too lucky for me, I guess.
It's very lucky, right?
Yeah, unless you have magic. Violet's
Or
characters
you're
were
rolling
all
like
dependent on
7
luck.
dice, and then you somehow only get 2 fight.
Well, that can happen with anything. But let me ask you this. What did you think about rolling dice for moving?
I mean, it's moving. You roll dice to move. That's in a lot of different games. It's
Yeah,
not-
but it's not often in these kind of games. Normally when we
Yeah.
play them, it's like you can move 6. Here you're like, you roll dice, you can move 2 or 12.
One thing I noticed while we were playing, whenever we need to get somewhere fast, we always roll like something underneath 5.
That's very true.
I want to be clear that I really hate that part of this game, and there's no excuse that it's still in the game. They should have made some other way to move. Either give everyone a very specific movement amount, like the monsters have, or say the dwarf is 3 plus 1 die roll, if you want some range. But rolling 2 is ridiculous. What did you do, stub your toe? What about the furniture?
Okay. The pieces, they look amazing. And I'm like, wow, these look really good. But I was a little disappointed that you can't interact with them at all and that they're just there to block you.
That's true.
That felt slightly annoying.
It is kind of a bummer, right? But that's because you've seen so many other games that do let you interact.
Yeah.
I did not understand how come we couldn't climb over the bed. It's just a bed.
It's bad.
It's someone else's bed. There might be bed bugs, and it's gross.
Fair point. I probably won't climb over that.
We're in a dungeon. There's probably bugs everywhere.
Okay, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So, this is almost the exact same game I played when I was a kid. On one hand, I get that there's nostalgia for that. And also, there's something to be said for simplicity. I don't have a problem with that. On the other, though, there's things they could have cleaned up and made better. For example, the fact that in the extra set, there was the female versions. But you could have just put that in the base game. Why do you have to get them extra? I mean, I used to think when we played, it was all females, right? There was no men involved?
No.
Yeah.
Well, I think all the orcs were guys.
Wait, really?
Well, I don't know. It doesn't matter. You guys killed them right and left. So there's the fun of exploring. There's not many games that do it like this. So I'm really curious what you guys think of it and what you would rate it.
Overall, the pieces look good. It's a little disappointing you can't interact with them. Fairly simple, easy to play. The dice rolling was really lucky. Probably a 7.5.
Okay.
I thought the game was also fairly simple. I like the pieces and like the details in them. Too bad we couldn't interact with things. I like the spells. I wish I chose a spell character so I could run through walls like Ruby did once, but no, she had to take them all and not use any of them at all.
I almost used
Rating.
I would give this a 7.
All right, and then I'm probably the lowest, giving it a 6. There's a lot of things I enjoy about it, and it's fun and nostalgic, and it's easy, and we have lots of extra stuff, although even that extra stuff's not easy to use. Like, we got a bard, but you only really use the bard into one thing. The weapons are all very samey. When I was in college, I made all kinds of extra rules for this. Extra things. I added more monsters. And you go online, there's all kinds of house rules for the game. They could have fixed some of that. This feels like Hasbro did a cash grab, especially for how expensive the game is. It's very expensive, over $100 for this. And most of that's the plastic, but the game doesn't seem to match. Also, why is there not more quests? I don't know, it just feels like they could have put more effort into it. So if you're in this for nostalgia, yay! If you're in it for a light game to play with kids, that's fun, but realize you could win or you can get shellacked because it's really, really lucky. But that's HeroQuest. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Violet.
And I'm Ruby.
The best thing about HeroQuest is this review's over.